Joining us now is Mick Mccabe. He's a high school sports writer and contributor with the Detroit Free Press and has not only been following MHSAA football throughout the entire season, including these playoffs, he has predicted every single playoff game for this Friday and Saturday as we head into the regional finals of the MHSAA playoffs across all divisions in football. And he's joining us now on the MegaCast. Mick, thanks for being back with us.
Right, it's great to be back.
Yeah, got a really exciting football season we've had here. A lot of great football being played, much like in other leagues professionally and in the college ranks. A lot of parity this year in divisions. A lot of teams that have been pleasant surprises and have sustained that throughout the season and really proved that in the playoffs. Most notably, I would say that would be Rochester Adams, a team that last year really struggled. They made the playoffs under those special circumstances and unfortunately had their season cut short due to COVID-19 protocols. This year, they come back. They moved down a division in the OAA out of the red and are absolutely dominant during the regular season, including from the onset in their Week 1 win. Kind of a surprise win for some at West Bloomfield against the Lakers. Now, this weekend in the regional final in Division 1, they will be taking on the Lakers once again, this time on their turf over at Rochester Adams High School. Let's begin by talking about the West Bloomfield Lakers, because that Week 1 loss, very surprising for some that they lost that game to Rochester Adams, a team that wasn't expected to be as excellent as they have been this season. But this West Bloomfield team has significantly improved since that Week 1. From your conversations with West Bloomfield staff and with their players, and from just what you've seen from this team, where has that clicked for them, where they went from very sloppy and seemed to be not having an entire element of chemistry with their team coming back defending their championship in Week 1 to now seemingly firing on every cylinder and playing great football?
Well, I think defensively they've stepped it up, and we're going to find out exactly how much they've improved tomorrow, because it's great. It's back to Week 1 with these guys, and they couldn't stop. They just could not stop Adams' running attack. They run this midline veer that you don't see a lot, so that makes it even harder to prepare for. And then Parker Peacock, the quarterback from Adams, is one of the best athletes in the state. He's a junior, and he's committed to Alabama, but for baseball. And he's really a terrific athlete. And then they've improved with their quarterback situation has gotten so much better as he's been able to kind of grow, except he's not growing. He's really, wow, he's small, but he's a really good player. He's more matured as a quarterback. And Dylan Tatum is just a tremendous running back and defensive back. And it's taken a little while to get used to all the new players, because West Bloomfield is basically a young team, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. And they're going to be good for years to come. And the quarterback Rick Nance, they're throwing around Kyler Murray comparisons, which is tremendously unfair to him, but they do play the same style, and they listen like a 5'10", and if he's 5'8", I'd be stunned. But he's really good, and he's figured out when to keep it, when to run. So they're going to be very dangerous, and they have been so far.
Yeah, it's been a much more dynamic team offensively, and in terms of Rochester Adams' strengths and what was West Bloomfield's weakness in Week 1, that defense certainly just couldn't keep up with Rochester Adams' ground and pound style offense. But now we're seeing, especially on the defensive line, those 3 edge rushers for the West Bloomfield Lakers are just absolutely lethal. You've got Mike Williams, who's having a record season for the West Bloomfield Lakers, has set the school record for sacks and is approaching the state record. You have Brandon Davis Swain, also been dominant, and then Joe Clark has been solid as well throughout the season. He's had a period of weeks where he has been absolutely dominant, and others where he has been taking care of business and really hasn't struggled. So that at least those edge rushers really putting a lot of pressure on quarterbacks, but then you got the linebacker core that's picked it up as well. And they're putting a lot of pressure on the running game for these teams and forcing them into the air. That being said, this Rochester Adams team is versatile. They're poised. They got a great quarterback, and they are very likely to be able to answer that against the West Bloomfield Lakers. You actually have predicted in your predictions that it's going to be a close game, but you have the edge going to Rochester Adams. Why is that on Friday night?
Well, maybe it's just a feeling. I saw the first game, and so I just can't get that out of my head. And I know teams improve a lot, and maybe the second time around, the team that lost the first game has an edge in the second. But that midline veer is so difficult to prepare for it. But they've had a long time to prepare for it now, and it's just a gut feeling. And I don't want every favorite to be picked here. I do look for some upsets here and there, and this technically could be one.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting game. We got a team in West Bloomfield that could easily be in the reversed role here and be 11-0, and a Rochester Adams team that could easily be 10-1. It's tough to beat a team twice, especially with the team where you beat a team that came in with 3 returning starters defensively and is now really playing again, starting to play some very dominant defense. But then again, on West Bloomfield side, Rochester Adams has taken care of business in every single one of their games. They've played a tough schedule. That's why they are in the place that they're in. They got a really talented roster here. And then even beyond this game, you're looking at Region 2 as being an interesting game on Friday. On Saturday, that game, you're going again, you have 2 of the top teams in the entire division going up against each other. These are 2 powerhouses in Grand Blanc and in Rockford that will be battling on Saturday. Give us a little preview of that game, and for those that maybe aren't familiar with these 2 teams, what makes them so dominant and has had them have such a prolific season, both 11-0 heading into Saturday's game?
Yeah, we've got Rockford number 1. We've had them number 1 for some time, and they're very, very talented. Their quarterback is really good. The quarterback's grandfather is Jerry Ahern, who won a state championship a couple of years ago at Lansing Catholic, and now he retired to go up and watch his grandson play. And you remember Cooper Rush with the Cowboys a couple of weeks ago, right? Well, he played at Lansing Catholic, and Coach Ahern is kind of like a quarterback whisperer. And they're very, very talented. And they have a really good quarterback at Grand Blanc, too. They might be a more complete team. Like I said, we've had Rockford ranked number 1 for so long. And, as long as they win, they stay there. But Grand Blanc has a really, really good team. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if they won this game and won the entire state championship.
Yeah, it's a really big fight to the finish in Division 1. The 8 teams remaining are exceptionally talented. Many of these teams have been contenders for a number of years. Dearborn Fordson, Macomb Dakota, West Bloomfield, Rockford, all there, Belleville even, especially, who's also going to be playing on Saturday. All teams that have consistently been contending for state championships have made deep playoff runs recently. Going down in Region 3 and Region 4, of those 4 remaining teams, who do you see as the biggest threat to come out of those 2 regions, out of that semifinal bracket into Ford Field, and be able to compete against a Region 1 or Region 2 team, whoever should come out of those final 4 there?
Well, the most talented team is Belleville, but they were the most talented team last year too, and they couldn't get past West Bloomfield in the semifinals. So, but I expect Belleville to be there. But Sterling Heights Stevenson is really good, and Fordson is one of their rivals. In fact, Fordson had West Bloomfield beaten earlier this season until they got a stupid personal foul, and it cost them 15 yards and ended their potential game-winning series. So, I wouldn't be shocked that Fordson beat them, but I would definitely be surprised.
We're joined by Mick Mccabe. He is a high school sports writer and contributor with the Detroit Free Press, joining us on the MegaCast as we're talking about high school football. We'll have a high school football playoff game coming up tomorrow night, 7:09 kickoff, a little bit later because it is also the Valley Sports Game of the Week, West Bloomfield and Rochester Adams. We will have the radio broadcast as well, 7:09 p.m. on Lakes FM, 89.3 FM in the greater West Bloomfield area, and also will be simulcast, the audio at least, will be simulcast on our website on civiccentertv.com, as well as on the Facebook page of the West Bloomfield School District. And so just circling back to these Oakland County teams. We're looking at West Bloomfield, we're looking at Rochester Adams, and then the 6 remaining teams beyond them. Of those 6 remaining teams, and thinking forward to the semifinal, that Rockford and that Grand Blanc game, and then looking down at the bottom of that bracket as well at teams like Belleville and teams like Dearborn Fordson, Sterling Heights Stevenson, Macomb Dakota. Either one of these teams, Adams or West Bloomfield, going to have a very tough road the rest of the way, whomever gets through Friday night's game. Where do you see their biggest challenge between then and the state finals for them to be able to, that biggest hump for them to get over, to really be able to have a shot at that title at Ford Field?
Well, like I said, Rockford's number 1. Grand Blanc has been unbeaten too. So whoever wins that game they're going to be a formidable opponent in the semifinals. Maybe I'm a little more familiar with Grand Blanc, so that's going to be a tough game. It's going to be like Davidson coming out the previous couple of years and kind of catching teams by surprise. Because they were in the same league as Davidson was. So maybe Grand Blanc would be a real difficult team to beat just to get to the state championship game.
We're joined by Mick Mccabe, a high school sports writer and contributor with the Detroit Free Press, joining us on the MegaCast. You can save $10 on his new book, Mick Mccabe's Golden Yearbook, 50 Great Years of Michigan's Best High School Players, Teams, and Memories, by ordering them now at mccabe.pictorialbook.com. That is mccabe.pictorialbook.com, as he is holding that up on the screen there.
Hold it up the right way.
It's fine. We just cut to you there, so we got that on the screen there. It is his Golden Yearbook, an excellent look back at 50 years of high school sports here in the state of Michigan. So we got a few more minutes with you, Mick, before we'll say goodbye today. As we're heading into this weekend, the regional final, still got another 2 weeks remaining in the playoff season, with the semifinals next week and then the finals at Ford Field after that. Let's begin with Division One with these final 8 teams. Of these final 8 teams, who do you believe is coming away with the state championship in 2021?
Grand Blanc.
Yeah. Grand Blanc, an 11-0 team, the number 2 ranked playoff points team in Division One. That's going to be a tough team to beat for Rockford. It's going to be a tough team to get over for whoever remains below them in the bracket in Region 2, Region 3, and Region 4 in Division One. Across the rest of the state, Mick, what are some of the big games that you're looking at, and some of the teams that you're looking at potentially having a really solid run from here on out and winning state championships?
Well, I think Warren De La Salle is almost a lock. They are a lock, in my mind, to get back to the state championship game. And it's interesting, if Traverse City Central can beat Caledonia this weekend, then I think Traverse City Central will get to the state championship game. And I think De La Salle will beat them. But this Josh Burnham, the quarterback and middle linebacker for Traverse City Central, he's committed to Notre Dame. He's a really good player. So it would be a great thing to be able to see him in the state finals. In Division 3, Detroit King is really good. Dante Moore, who was offered a scholarship by Jim Harbaugh before his 8th grade year, is a talented quarterback. But don't forget about DeWitt. They won it last year, and they are terrific. They got a great Tyler Holtz and Tommy McIntosh. That's a great passing combination. So I think Division 3 would be a tremendous championship game. I think Country Day, which won the title last year in D4, their thing is going to end this week. when they play at Chelsea. I think we've got Chelsea ranked #1, and I think they will win it. Division 5 is like the biggest lock in the history of locks. Grand Rapids Catholic Central. They've won the last couple state championships. They won in 4, then they moved down last year to Division 5. Even without their quarterback, who was Joey Silveri, tremendous. They had another kid step up who was a receiver and just had a fabulous year. And so I can see them winning Division 5, kind of easily. In Division 6, the Lansing Catholic Central team they've lost once to Portland, they lost once to Portland. They beat Paloma, Westphalia. So I think Lansing Catholic Central with the Ahern kid at quarterback, they're a really good team. Division 7 is probably the most balanced division in the state, with Muskegon Catholic Central, Jackson Lumen Christi, and Traverse City St. Francis and Paloma, Westphalia. They should all win this week. And Paloma, Westphalia and Lumen Christi are really, really good. And I could see them playing again for the state championship like they did a couple of years ago. And I think Paloma, Westphalia is the team to beat there. And then in Division 8, with Beale City and Ubley, got their finals last year, and they're talented. But Hudson High, they had the 72-game winning streak stopped in 1975 in the state championship game by Ishpeming, which was the first year of the state playoffs. And that 72-game winning streak is still the longest in state history. And they're back. They're really, really good this year. So I think Hudson is a team to beat in Division 8.
I'm joined by Mick Mccabe. He is the high school sports writer and contributor with the Detroit Free Press. Mick, just another minute with you before we'll say goodbye. Anything else for us today before we let you go?
I just hope we have good weather for the next 2 weeks. I mean, that first week, all that rain, it took me 3 days to dry out. So we're hoping for great weather. And then we go inside and it doesn't matter as long as it's not a big snowstorm. It stops everybody from getting to Ford Field. I think it's going to be really cool to have everybody back in Ford Field. Like, last year only so many we could let in, but it's going to be really cool. I hope we have great crowds again.
Yeah, I'm sure we will have excellent crowds at Ford Field. And I agree with you on the weather. That game a few weeks back at West Bloomfield High School against the Novi Wildcats, that was a tough game to call in the booth there with all that rain. So hopefully for the players and for the broadcasters and for the writers, good weather the rest of the way as we head toward Ford Field. Mick, thanks for being with us today.
Hey, it's always a pleasure.